Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Conversation, where we continue to destigmatize conversations around cannabis through the eyes of the sports world. To set the record straight, and we hope have a little fun along the way. I'm your host, Dave Briggs, former CNN, NBC Sports, and Fox News anchor, and a host at Turner Sports. Joined by my co-host on this adventure, Amani Toomer, the Giants' all-time leading receiver. We've had 3 Hall of Famers on this program to date, and tonight makes it 4. As Ricky Williams, the college football Hall of Famer, is with us. He won a Heisman Trophy at Texas. He rushed for 10,000 yards in a stellar NFL career with the Dolphins and the Saints, a career arguably cut short by marijuana. He has since become the most interesting man in cannabis. He's an astrologist. He's a podcaster. He's the owner of Highsman. That is Highsman, not like the trophy. Toom, good to see you. Ricky, great to have you. Start us off with your cannabis story.
So it's an interesting story. And, it's funny, depending on the age, like most things, but depending on the age of people, when you talk to them about cannabis, it's different because there's the personal relationship you have with this plant. But then there's everything else that goes on around it. And so, and especially for me, so to separate the two, the experience of being a persona in the cannabis space, starting, back in 2004, before it was popular, has been an adventure all in and of itself. But my favorite thing about it is before all of this happened, okay, I'd be out somewhere, somebody would see me and they come up to me and they want a picture, an autograph, and we're talking football, okay? Post-retirement, people come up to me, okay, yes, we might talk football, but usually, you want to go back to the car or I got something for you. But I'm joking, but seriously though, the depth of the conversation and what we talked about became so much more interesting. And even me as a human being, I became so much more interesting through that process. And even I'd say the same thing about my relationship with the plant is, again, because of the outside stuff. When I first started smoking, it was kind of because I was living in Southern California and I was a big Bob Marley fan. And so my friends just assumed that I smoked already, but I didn't. And so I remember smoking my first time, went to Ben Kotnick's house at lunch, pulled out this big old bong. And then, I was trying to play it cool, but like everyone else, coughed my lungs out. And after lunch, I had physics. And I remember sitting in physics class thinking, I don't understand why people do this. I'm sitting in class and I don't get it. Okay. And then go to college, and my roommate in college, another running back, he's a big smoker. And so we'd have guys over his dorm room on Fridays. And I was young trying to fit in. So I would hit it a couple of times. And I started to notice, I feel more loose and I have fun with the guys. But it wasn't until my senior year, had a couple rough games, had a bad breakup with my girlfriend. And my friend was just like, you need to chill. Because I wasn't sleeping. I was obsessing. And I remember I took a couple of hits, and that was the first night I slept through the night, and I actually got perspective. I started looking at things differently. And that was really the first time that I had that kind of experience about, okay, I get it. I get it now. And then as I hold on, I'm almost done. As I kept going through life, it just kept building on that. And as my life started to unfold and I started to take my spiritual life more serious, I started to get it, and I started to make more connections. And it's become a big part of what I think I'm here on this earth to do. Is not directly related to cannabis, but opening people's minds.
I believe you left out a key detail, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think it was a girl that started your relationship with cannabis, and I believe it was a particular Texas quarterback.
Yeah, Major and Julie. Yeah.
So fill us in on that part of the story.
Well, I'm not going to get into the details because last time Shannon Sharp got me talking about the details. I got a nasty LinkedIn message from Julie. So I'm not gonna go into the details, but I just will say, anyone who's ever like been in a relationship, right? Like where they actually love somebody and then things don't go well, right? Regardless of the details, it just doesn't feel good. You just feel like your heart is like out. You can't think straight. You're just a wreck. Right. And and then imagine, I was running for the Heisman Trophy. So externally, everything was great. But internally, I had, the guy that was turning around, handing me the ball was like sleeping next to my girlfriend for the past 2 years. And and on a daily basis, I have a reputation for being the cool, calm, and collected guy, but that took it. It took it a lot for me to get through that season.
That was Major Applewhite?
Yes.
Damn, I what?
Well, if you Google him, you'll see his wife. You'll see Major and Julie Applewhite. It's
Oh, wait, he married her? Or wait.
Yeah, they're married still.
Oh, my mind is blown now. Okay. Wow. I didn't hear the end of that story.
Yeah, it comes full circle. Full circle.
Wait, so the first year you really started getting into cannabis was the year you won the Heisman Trophy?
Yeah. It's a funny story, but it's actually true. And I think it really speaks to what cannabis can do. So we played Kansas State. I think I had like 13 carries for 42 yards. And this is the week I found out about Julian Major. And so I was thinking, okay, I'm out of the Heisman race and like this, I got to see this every day. And I got home and I just was beating myself up. And again, I smoked a little bit, went to Blockbuster because you know what Blockbuster was, went to Blockbuster and I rented Blazing Saddles. Okay. I went home and I just I laughed it all out, got some perspective, got a good night's sleep. Next 2 weeks, back-to-back 300-yard games. I was back in the Heisman race. I mean, Julie stayed with Major, but at least the football stuff started to get better.
Hey, man. I like
that is unbelievable.
You made out well in that deal.
When people, I mean, in terms of what you're trying to do, if you're trying to dispel the stigma of cannabis, you could say, well, the first year, I smoked it, I actually won the Heisman. So, I mean, It can't be that bad. Stoners aren't all that bad, right?
Exactly. My favorite stoners are the ones that are ambitious in life, because to me, what I've realized, you got to have that balance in life. You got to have that balance of a rich inner life, and you got to have that balance of the grit to go make something of it in the outer world. And I think depending on where you are, some people are too much in the inner. And I would tell those people, maybe you should slow down a little bit, and some people are too much on the outer. And I say, hey, you need to chill, right? We got to find that balance.
Did you ever smoke pregame? No,
I smoked once. Once I smoked before practice. And I was playing up in Canada, and I broke my arm when I was up there. So I missed a bunch of time. And I was rehabbing, and I was probably 2 weeks away from coming back to practice, and it started raining, and our practice facility was outside. So we had to drive like an hour to an indoor facility. And the guys that I rode with, those were the guys that smoked before practice. And so I was in the car and I was like, well, I'm not playing this week. And so I hit the blunt a couple of times. And I'm telling you, I had the most fun at that practice. I mean, I wasn't playing, but I was recovering from an injury. And I was playing scout team. I remember I was playing scout team tight end, and I was killing those boys. It was just because I just let go of all the tension and the fear about hurting myself, and I just allowed myself to be present. And I had a wonderful time. But for me, cannabis use was more about recovery. It was about, you go out and practice or the game and just life. You get beat up, and then that reflection time at night when you're just reviewing your day and looking at, okay, what would I like to do better? How can I look at this differently? Preparing myself to be able to get ready for bed, get back up and do it again. And to me, that was the key, that reflective time to learn to nurture and take care of my inner life, not just only focus on scoring touchdowns and football stuff.
Now, Ricky, I had a friend of mine who played, Jesse Palmer, who actually played up in Canada. And he said, every NFL player has to look at Canada and be like, it might be kind of fun. And he told me that it was the most fun he's ever had playing football since high school, because it was just so relaxed and people were really playing it for the love of the game. What was your experience like compared to an NFL team?
Yeah, it was like that. I mean, they don't do everything like first class the way that NFL does it, but that's kind of what I loved about it. Like we flew commercial, which was, you can imagine a football team flying commercial. It was fun, and it felt so much like college, because in Canada they have to have a certain number of Canadian players and they have a certain allocation of American players. So most of the American players, we all hung out together. So it was fun, and again, people were playing for the love of the game. So it just, I don't know. I really love the experience, but the football side of it, because there's 3 downs and it's really a faster moving game. It really helped evolve my game, because so much of my game in the NFL is 4 yards in a cloud of dust. But up there, that doesn't work. If you're getting 4 yards, they're throwing the ball in 2nd down. And so it really helped me open up my game to be more of a big play running back.
So I'm curious about the impact of cannabis on your career, looking back on it. 1, would you have won the Heisman without cannabis? 2, if it weren't for cannabis, would you be in the Hall of Fame? Ricky, I forgot how damn good you were in the NFL until Amani and I were talking earlier today, and I'm watching highlights and I'm going, he went for 1,800 yards and 16 touchdowns. So I hate to get back to those same 2 questions. Would you have won the Heisman without it? Would you be in the Hall of Fame if it weren't for cannabis?
Yeah, these are interesting questions. Who knows? But my best guess is, would I have won the Heisman? But I don't think so. Because and I'm gonna get deep. I'm gonna get deep on this one. Okay.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. So I feel like now, right, launching this brand, because it's more than just a brand. It stands for being yourself and doing it your own way, believing in yourself. Okay. And so for me, I think what makes this significant, that I'm launching this brand, okay, is that I had to have the kind of story that I had. Otherwise, people are not going to take it so seriously. And again, to me, the irony of this is, one of the things I was most ashamed of ever, people finding out that I smoked. So afraid that when it became public, I thought my life was over. And then I leaned into it. I said, I'm not going to let other people define me. This is my relationship with cannabis. I'm going to explore it and see what happens. I don't have to go the same path that the coaches said me to be a loser. I can tell a different story. And so now launching Highsman has nothing to do with the trophy. It really has to do about being your best self, and realizing to be your best self, you have to trust your heart. You can't find the answers out there. And if you do, things work out in the end. And I think we need more of these stories.
Yeah, you talking about your brand, Heisman. I got the shirt and the hat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'm gonna be rocking it this week in Vegas. But tell us some of the struggles that you had, because I mean, I'm a young entrepreneur trying to get in the cannabis game, just like you. I think a lot of more of people of color need to be in it, because this is a great opportunity, and we've bared the brunt of a lot of the criminal justice system being prosecuted for minor possessions, getting into the system and losing the opportunity to really be ingrained in this society. So what were some of the struggles that you had, and what are you most proud of about being in this business?
Yeah, it's a great question, because there's been a lot more struggles than there have been positive things. Not that struggles aren't positive. And this is my personal experience. For me, growing up, I always consider myself more of an artist, not really a business person. I never saw myself getting into business. And so I just really leaned into the artistic side. But when I realized that there's actually a cannabis industry, I started to become intrigued for the first time about taking an interest in a business venture. And what I realized as I dip my toe in the water is that I don't know a lot. And so it's been a really steep learning curve of learning how to do business. And I think so much, at least for me, being a football player, is we got paid a lot, but we were the labor. We weren't the decision makers. In football, if you try to give the coach some feedback, like, they look at you like, shut up and dribble. No, but so really taking on a different form of leadership, like leading with my ideas, leading with my mind. That's been difficult. And then we learned football, but learning this business game, some of the rules are kind of the same, but they're also very different. And I think that the biggest challenge is like raising money, because especially for us, being on the side where everyone is always coming to us asking for money, and our attitudes about it, when you're trying to build a business and create something more and invite people in, a big part of it is going out to raise money. in, you know, being confident enough in your idea, right? It's one thing to be confident enough in your athletic ability when you've done it again, but doing something different and something new, being confident enough in yourself, and then trying to inspire confidence in other people enough to support your vision. So, you know, and then you mentioned it earlier, like I'm the boss, so I'm the one that sets the schedule. I'm the one that's creating the game plan, right? That's me now, and really embracing that maturity.
Tell me about the brand. I know I saw that there's pregame, halftime, postgame. Tell me a little bit more about the brand and where can I buy it? How can I smoke it?
Yeah. So again, it's a lifestyle brand, and we're launching with merch. Got my Heisman sweater on. We're launching with merch, and we're launching with eighths flower, and we're launching in California. So at least for the next couple of months, you got to be in California. But soon we're going to be in Oregon, and soon we're going to be in Nevada. And the idea is really to be one of the first national brands. And I think we have a good shot at it because, you know, so much, and I mentioned this earlier, so much of the past has been separating cannabis and sports. And now we're at a time where it's not even bringing them together, because they've always been together. It's just been in the shadows. And I think bringing it out in front. So instead of punishing these people we respect and honor who use cannabis, maybe we should start asking them, hey, I'm inspired by what you do. What are you using cannabis for? How do you use it? And I think these are more interesting, empowering conversations. And that's what it's about. And so I'm doing cannabis my way. So this idea of cannabis, sativa, indica, you know, mixing cannabis and sports, we translated it to pregame. That's a sativa, get your mind right, you know, halftime, and I get through the day, and then postgame when it's time to chill and relax.
So I got to ask you, what do you prefer to do? Do you prefer the pregame? Do you prefer the halftime? Are you a sativa guy? Are you an indica guy? Are you a hybrid?
I'm a pregame guy, you know, but it's funny. So, you know, as cannabis becomes more mainstream and more sophisticated, I think the value is we get to start having these kinds of conversations. Because what I notice is, you know, everyone's different, right? Everyone's different, and our moods are constantly changing. And so with something like cannabis, which is a mind altering substance, okay, it's important to be aware of what your mindset is. So if I'm already anxious, you know, I have a big call or a pitch, and I smoke a sativa, my mind starts going crazy. Okay. Then I might hit the halftime, right? Halftime, you're going crazy. You get to calm down, take a couple of deep breaths at halftime and get your mind right. Okay. But if my mind is going crazy and I need to calm down, you know, I'm going to look for the post game. I need to relax a little bit. But my main go-to is the pregame. You know, I'm a Gemini. So I'm a mental guy. And so I like to get the mind going and keep it moving and feeding that kind of creativity that sativas can.
Amani's really, you know, we haven't, I don't think ever, Ricky, gotten him to smoke. I think are you still strictly an edible guy, Amani?
No, I have some neighbors that definitely are pushing me down the path a little bit. But like I told, like I don't know if Ricky knows, but I'm very, very late to the game. I first started smoking maybe 3 years ago. So
what was that like?
Well, it was a thing because like I got into the business and I started investing in a couple of companies, and then I figured it was coming to Jersey, so I wanted to get more involved. And then I'm thinking, you know, and then I did the research on why it was actually, you know, the prohibition actually started. And I read about Harry Ansling, and I'm like, this is crazy. And then you read about all the stuff, and you're like, wait a minute, like this isn't that bad for you, really? And then, you know, I started taking CBD. And CBD helped me so well with my with my injuries and stuff that I had. Then I was like, well, if CBD is good, this got to be really good. So then I tried this other stuff, and it's been great, man. And I feel like I've been cheated. I feel like I've been lied to the majority of my life about this plant. And getting into the business part is super exciting because we're getting it on the ground floor or close thereof. And we have an opportunity to really put people of color in an industry that we've been kicked out of, that, you know, all these other industries, you know, the prohibition that I had. My uncle used to, my grandfather had, you know, was a bootlegger. So, you know, he had a Packard, he would drive his car really fast, all that stuff. We don't have no NASCAR representation, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of these things where I feel like I need to get into it. I'm not going to be And so now I'm trying it, and I still not very. I know about the edibles, and I know about the vape pens, but it's still there's a learning curve that I need to do in terms of learning what I actually like, because I just don't trust a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I need to get some. You need to send me some Highsman so I can get some quality stuff that I can trust.
For sure. And next time you're out in California, we got to get together and chop it up, because I think, to me, that's where the real value is, are these kinds of conversations that we've been forbidden from having for such a long time. And a big part of what we're doing with the Heisman brand is creating a safe space for people to tell their stories.
Well, I will tell you, Ricky, I am a former and yet a current national news anchor. And a lot of people said, you better stop doing that show or you're going to lose your job. And I said, I'm going to take my chances. And I haven't lost my job yet. So that tells you, I think the stigma is beginning to turn at least a little bit. I feel good about where we are in terms of the momentum. You mentioned that you're a Gemini, and I have to ask about this astrology because I know nothing about it. But what really sent you down that road? And like, I'm a Libra. What does that mean? Should I invest in what that means? And what are you, Amani? What's your sign?
I'm a Virgo.
Toomer is a Virgo. So should that tell us something about ourselves?
Well, here's the thing, right? To me, and when I found astrology, I was lost. I was lost. And I think whenever we have questions or we're looking for something, we tend to find it. And so, does it have value for you? Maybe not right now, but there's certain times in life where you feel kind of lost or confused. And then that's when astrology has the greatest value, because it gives you perspective. It's the idea of, you think of just, and it's quite natural, right? When things go wrong in our life, right? Typically we look up. We look up for some kind of help or for some kind of guidance. And I was at a time where I needed help. I found astrology, and it didn't only help me find myself, but more importantly, it's helped me. It's given me a tool to be able to help a lot of other people find themselves. And it's the basic idea. And I love talking about this. A lot of people obviously know who Martin Luther King Jr. was, but a lot of people don't know what his true vision was. And he said it seems like there's two sets of laws. There's God's laws and there's man's laws. And a big thing for MLK was to bring them closer together. And, my modern day interpretation is we all have inner needs, inner wants, inner desires, and we have the external world that we have to deal with. And I think astrology is a great map or a great guide to help you take care of who you are on the inside, so that you can better navigate and manage what's going on in the outer world. So as a Gemini, an example, okay. When someone says they're a Gemini, they're, from an astrology perspective, we're saying when you were born, the sun was in the sign of Gemini. And signs are really related to seasons. So Gemini means the third month of spring, Libra the first month of fall, Virgo the last month of summer. Okay. And one thing's about Libra, just to point out, it's obvious right now, right? Just a couple of weeks ago, we entered Libra season. Okay. At least here in LA, okay, started to cool down a little bit. Okay. Started to cool down. One of the most peaceful, beautiful times of the year, right? That balance point. And so Libra, the scales, is really about balance. And when I say the scales, Libra is about balance, I'm referring to priorities, right? Priorities. And so if I'm talking to a Libra, what I say is prioritize peace. Prioritize peace. Okay. And on the flip side of that, what if we overly prioritize peace? Okay. Then we become superficial. Right. And so the thing about Libra, right? You're here to master equanimity. Okay. So value finding the middle ground and the balance, and live there, and life will be okay.
Cannabis and astrology go hand in hand, don't they, Tim?
I'm telling you they do. Because, well, Virgo, a little bit about Virgo. Okay. Virgo's a crafts person, right? The whole idea, if I'm talking to a Virgo, I sum it up like this. Okay. Virgo, the virgin, purity, perfection. Okay. The path towards perfection. All right. So the Virgos have high ideals where I should be, but it's a humble sign. Where am I right now? Virgo's constantly aware of the gap between where I should be and where I am. So the whole Virgo story is, how do you navigate that gap? Okay. The ones that do it well, the crafts person. They find a craft. They find something that they love to work on a daily basis, and it becomes the process of getting better. That's the way for Virgos to live meaningful lives, regardless of what they're doing. If they're doing that, they're going to be fine.
Wow. That's very good, because it kind of describes me. I'm a guy who always has, I'm always working on something. I'm always trying to, always. And my brother always makes fun of me because he's like, what are you doing now?
Ceaseless effort. That's the key. Self-love and ceaseless effort, balancing the two. That's the key for Virgo. Because when you're always aware of what's wrong, when it goes too far, we can beat up on ourselves. But right, we're not good enough. But when you realize it's not about being good enough, it's the process of getting better. Yeah.
Ricky, who's the biggest name you've ever smoked with?
Biggest name, I'd probably say in the cannabis space, Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson.
What was that like?
It was it was tricky because, for a large part of my career in the NFL, I was in the NFL's drug program, which meant I was being tested anywhere from 4 to 9 times a month. And so I had to be strategic. So it was when the Super Bowl was in 2004, 2005. Super Bowl was in Houston, and Willie was performing at an event. And I went into his bus after the event, and I was like, could be drug tested tomorrow, but this is a once in a lifetime experience. So I did it. And instead of being tested, I booked a flight to Australia so they couldn't test me. And so I made it, and it was a wonderful experience. Again, because something about when you smoke with someone, it's like the walls drop and you can be more real. And sitting on that bus, hearing Willie tell stories, a once in a lifetime experience.
I thought you might say you've smoked with a current player. Have you? And how many current players do you think smoke? Because Calvin Johnson, Megatron, who I'm sure you know, he told me he thinks 3/4 of the league smokes.
I think right now it might even be a little bit more. It's funny. So older players, my age and even younger. I was talking to Reggie Bush a couple of weeks ago, and it's a common story that because we had so much on the line, a lot of guys weren't trying to risk getting in trouble. So people just said, I'll just put it away until I'm done. And so many athletes, basketball players, football players I meet, they're like, man, I feel like I was lied to. I wish I would have found this earlier. It could have helped me play longer and have a higher quality of a career. And it's fascinating to me. And so, I think there's something to this. And I think part of it is the evolving way that players are thinking about taking care of themselves. They're thinking more holistically and realizing, especially where there's not so much punishment, that cannabis might be a more humane solution than NSAIDs and Vicodin.
Speaking of Vicodin, I mean, I remember my rookie year that really scared me off of Vicodin and all those things because, I blew out my knee and I'm sitting there on the table. I've told Dave this story before, and I just remember all these guys that wouldn't even talk to me because back in the day, they didn't talk to rookies. Like rookies weren't celebrated. They were like, you shut up, rookie, and we're not gonna talk to you. And I'm sitting there and guys that wouldn't talk to me for months, all of a sudden, after I blew up my knee, were asking me for Vicodin and asking me, what are you gonna do with those extra Vikes? And I'm like, what? From then on, I was like, I'm just gonna have to grin and bear some of this stuff. And all the ibuprofen that they would give us. And so I really get upset too, because like, if I could have found cannabis back then, I probably could have saved my liver. I could have saved, I don't think I have any problems now, but who knows what's going to happen in the future. And did you ever have any experience with opioids and Vicodin and all that stuff?
I had little experiences. And like you say, the big issue with opioids is when you have surgery, because you need something at least for a week to take the edge off. But for me, it was more the ibuprofen, the NSAIDs. When I was in college, I had an ulcer from popping 8.
Really?
I was taking a bunch of Advil because, when you go see the team doctor, regardless of what's going on, they tell you exactly the same thing. We'll talk to the coach about taking it easy and take these, no matter what, that's what they say. And it's funny. I was sitting in the training room one day, similar experience to yours. And I was just watching guys come in one by one, getting their Toradol shot. And I was thinking, wow, if we're doing this on a daily basis just to practice, what is this going to do over a 10-year career? And I just, in my
Practice?
mind, I started reorienting myself to say, I need to try to just grin and bear it or find alternative ways to take care of myself.
Wow. For practice.
Practice.
Was that at Texas?
That was it. That was in Miami.
In Miami.
But, I get it. Like when I try to tell people, especially when I first got into the league, that Indocin or the Toradol, when you take it the night before, when you remember to take it the night before, you feel like you're 15 years old on the football field. You feel great out there. But when you forget to take it, you feel like you're 85. So so I get it. I get it. But we just need to create more options for players and taking care of themselves.
Do you think the league will get there to the point that they're encouraging cannabis use? How far are we away from that?
Yeah, I think we're a couple of years away. And I think it's really about the athletes speaking up more, and I think as athletes speak up more, we see public opinion starting to respond. And right now, I think in our country, over 60% of people favor legalization. So the tide in public opinion for most of the country has definitely shifted, and I think the NFL has a choice to make. Are they going to wait until it shifts? Or are they going to get ahead of this thing? And typically my guess is as they see more and more dollars come into the cannabis industry, it's probably going to get their attention.
Just like with gambling, they were anti-gambling and they have now eagerly embraced it. And it's now an official partner. Don't we need somebody like Patty Mahomes just come out and say, I smoke pot? Because I'm not confirming that.
Of course he does. Of course he does. Of course, like to me, and maybe I'm being hyperbolic here, but in this day and age, why wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
So you agree? There are some high-profile players in the league that smoke. How would that help if they came out and said that?
I mean, of course it would help. It would help more than when I came out, because when I came out, public opinion wasn't for it. But now there's so much public, and we saw it with the Sha'Carri Richardson. That situation, right? At a chance, probably good chance she would have won the gold, but because she failed the test, it didn't go down. And all the people that stood up and said, this is crazy, like if athletes were willing to, take that on right now, it would pay them. It would pay off, not just monetarily, but I think people would respect them more. And it's the future. I think it's going to definitely replace alcohol. I mean, if you see someone who drinks too much and you see someone who smokes too much, it's easy to eat. That's the great test right there.
Another great test is when I talk to police officers, and they always say, hey, when a guy on cannabis has never hurt any of my officers, but alcoholics and people who are drunk, who have done too much alcohol, they fight my officers and they hurt them. So most of the people that are, that are enforcing these laws know the difference between the two substances.
Here's the crazy thing. The truth is, for a lot of people, more than would claim, know the differences. And the issue is they pretend that they don't. I think that if everyone that actually consumes cannabis actually told the truth about it, the stigma would disappear so fast.
Yeah. I remember the first dispensary I ever been to, because I was, I went there and I'm like, well, what is this going to be like? And to see everybody coming together, it was like a grocery store. Everybody needs food. And there was so many different people coming in there. And I'm like, this is crazy. I honestly did not know how many people actually partook until you go to a dispensary and just sit there and watch the different types of people go in. And it's really a point where, all socioeconomic classes, all races, all religion, everybody's in there and with some representation. So it just, anything that can bring people together, I'm all for, and to bring people together and to, have a medicinal effect and help. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. And I just hope that, we can find a way to do our part and make this thing mainstream and it will really help society, I feel.
Yeah, it's so cool that we can have this conversation, that we can say these things and look at each other and take each other seriously, and I think that's the real measuring stick. So just even a couple of years ago, people talking about positive effects of cannabis, people just would look at you sideways like, what are you talking about? I don't know. This is just great. I mean, it's, and I think bigger than actual plan is what you mentioned. There's certain times in life where we realize that we were lied to, we were lied to, and it's that one thing. But often it opens our minds to where else have they lied to me? And I
Exactly.
think that's a valuable experience in life.
Yeah.
I know you're about out of time, but the lies are still being told. What about the stigma bothers you most? Is it that lazy ass guy in the Cheetos? Is it the gateway drug? What is the most harmful? What bothers you the most?
To me, the stigma, there's the stigma on cannabis, and that doesn't bother me. To me, the bigger stigma, and I think it's cultural, is the stigma against altered states of consciousness. And as I went on my studies, I studied a lot of indigenous healing systems, and pretty much all of them across the board agreed in some sense that you don't progress in life and you don't heal if you can't enter an altered state of consciousness. You can't. And and so I think that's something that we don't talk about, right? It's like shadow the alcohol or the opioid problem in our country or the Prozac, whatever. Everybody's on something, okay? And we've demonized it for so long instead of asking, what is the value of altered states of consciousness? And how can we utilize them to increase the quality of our lives? And I think that's the stigma that bothers me, is that there's nothing positive that comes from being high. And I'm saying, even if you just think of it logically, what is the opposite of high? It's low. And if someone asks me, would you rather be high or low? I'm sorry. I'm saying high most of the time. And that's the other thing about Highsman, is I'm trying to change the stigmas. And it was like this in the 70s. If you talk to people that are 60 and older about smoking, a lot of them have positive stories. Okay. And that's how it used to be. It used to be a term of endearment to say, wow, she's so stoned or psychedelic. That used to be a positive thing. Okay. And I'm a born again hippie, but I think we need a little bit of that.
You are indeed, man. All right. So the podcast is Curious Questions with Ricky Williams. Do you have any curious questions for us? We've asked them all of you.
Curious questions.
I'll
Yeah,
answer.
I do have a question, because this is something that for the most part, all of us have to deal with as we enter into the cannabis space. Okay. How do you think about, how do you understand your old views about cannabis and reconcile them with what you're doing now?
Okay, I'll go first because I thought about that in regard to you. I am a newscaster. I was a sportscaster before that, and I remember judging you on television. I remember saying that guy is throwing away his fucking career because of weed and thinking less of you. And now here I am. I have the utmost respect for what you did, but even more so for what you're doing now. How I reconcile it is, man, I hit rock bottom, Ricky. I mean, I lost a job right before COVID. I was in a ball in a dark room crying, anxiety. I have back pain. And the one thing that I've always found in these last year and a half, 2 years, is that it's not necessarily about being high for me, but it is about taking out the lows and managing the lows. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy being high, but managing the lows is what's been so important for me. I feel like a jackass, though, that I was one of the guys judging you at the end of your football career, but I'm glad I've at least come full circle.
Well, I mean, but even me, I was judging the stoners in high school. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We because we were all, most of us were trained that this is bad. Part of the process is how do we reconcile the old view? And again, this is just a great exercise, because the truth is, in life, we think certain things and then we get new information. And if you want to be happy and keep growing, you got to learn to discard the old stuff and move towards the new stuff.
How about you, Monty? How do you reconcile it?
Well, I grew up in Berkeley, California, so most people smoke weed around me, and it was not a big deal. I remember getting offered weed in the 3rd grade, and I just didn't know what it was, so I said no. And it was just one of those things. Like I just didn't know what it was, and I never really judged people who smoked weed that much. I mean, I've seen a lot of stoners, but I just kind of said that's their thing and kept it like that. But I was very curious about cannabis when Ricky, because Ricky had, he had in the football world, you'd say he had like the world by the balls. And for, the fact that he was still wanted, and most NFL players just want to be wanted enough to play another season, to play another year, and for him to just walk away, and you almost had a admiration, because everybody wants to stay in the league. I don't know if they want to stay in the league because of, because they absolutely, can't live without football. Though most people are scared of being a regular person and not being in the league anymore, because, the whole thing they tell us is, football players die 2 times, right? They die when their last day in the NFL, and then they die when they die. And so that's the kind of thing that goes through your mind as years start clicking on. And for somebody just to walk away, and I think it's healthy to let players know that there's other, there's a life after football. And I remember after I got done playing, I was like, man, I probably, this isn't bad at all. This isn't bad at all. Life is great, and you get to grow in so many more areas. So I never looked down on anybody who smoked a lot of weed, because it was basically,
Berkeley. Yeah.
Berkeley.
Yeah.
We talked to Tiki last week, Ricky, and there's some symbiosis there between you and Tiki and where you walked away from the game. I think both of you were still near the top of your game, and probably both could have, you both still should be in the Hall of Fame, but you walked away at similar times, albeit for different reasons. Well, there is a pregame, there is halftime, there is postgame. We've appreciated this conversation, Ricky. Hopefully we can smoke and do it in person, maybe in Vegas or maybe in California. It is Heisman.co. You can get it in California.
Soon in Oregon, soon in Nevada.
Soon in Oregon and Nevada. But even if you can't get it, you can still get the gear on the website, right?
Still get the gear. Yep.
Yeah, we got to talk, Ricky. I'm in with some dispensaries in Jersey that might want to run some Heisman. So
yeah, we've had meetings.
We got to meet in Vegas.
Yeah, we've had meetings with people in Jersey. This is fun. As we move into each of the legal states, I'm excited about growing with this business. Thank you guys for having me. This was an amazing conversation.
We enjoyed it, man. Can't wait for you guys to be out east in our dispensaries, but look forward to hanging out with you sometime in the near future. Heisman.co, and that is HIGHS, not like the trophy. Heisman.
High like high. Exactly.
High like high. Thank you, Ricky.